hate that it's marketed as a romance.
Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia, and today I'm going to be doing my book before movie / review of the All the Right Places movie. If you didn't see my review of the Looking for Alaska series, this is basically going to be in the same format. I'm just going to be talking about the things I liked and didn't like about the adaptation, showing you some examples, and just kind of telling you why you need to read the book, and then also see the adaptation, why or why not. It's like a video essay, kind of. As most people will know, All the Right Places is one of my all-time favorite books. So obviously this adaptation has a really special place in my heart. My hair is so bad today. So when I heard that Netflix was adapting All the Right Places into a film, I could not be more excited, especially seeing that Elle Fanning was already attached to the project since the beginning. As I waited and anticipated this book, I actually reread my favorite book, All the Right Places, just to prepare and remember what I was getting myself into, and I recently watched it and I loved it.
I am shooketh.
So there are a few discrepancies which I find in every adaptation. The purpose of a screenwriter is not to have the entire story, not to have it just as it is, but to make that more adaptable to the screen. And I understand that. I believe that this has a separate screenwriter than Jennifer Niven, who's the writer of the actual book. And there were a couple discrepancies that did bother me, that I didn't see the point of making those changes. I'm not going to talk about spoilers in this video because I think that's mean. Two main characters, Violet and Finch, meet at their school's bell tower. Now in the movie, they meet on a bridge. This little start to the movie really hurt my heart. This is just such a dramatic moment. It's really, you know, it obviously catapults the entire story. I felt like that tower had more impact than the bridge that they changed it to. However, I do see what they were trying to do with the bridge. The bridge is the site of a tragic event from one of the characters' past, so I did understand in some ways why that needed to happen or why they made that change in general, just because they wanted to make it a lot more straightforward and clear for the audience. I understand, but I just felt like the imagery was really lacking there. I don't know. Again, some weird things. There's some beautiful quotes in All the Bright Places, which is one of the things I love about it. Jennifer Niven's writing is beautiful and very metaphorical, which I really like in books that I tend to read. However, some of the lines were not delivered in the way that they were in the book. Not meaning like their literal delivery at the points in which they were delivered. There's a really fun moment where Finch raises his hand and asks the entire class whether he can be partners with Violet. And this is just a comical moment. It's almost a moment of relief, secondhand embarrassment as well. And this is a really fun moment, but it wasn't in the movie, which I missed out on. And then he ended up saying some of, you know, more dramatic, flowery things to Violet at random places, I felt like. That didn't hold as much meaning as they did in the book. Another discrepancy is that Finch actually has two sisters in the book. In the movie, he only has one. He has an older sister and a younger sister. And I felt like we were really missing something from his character and some really sweet moments that brought the more compassionate side of Finch. We also missed out on the different versions of Finch, and that is something that Finch does in the book, and that's something that was very prominent. It was like, what Finch is he today? And, you know, did it need it? No. Was it a thing that could have been done easily without, you know, adding minutes onto the film? Yes. I feel like overall the focus of the film was a lot more on Violet, which is different. The focus of the book, I believe that the focus of the book is mostly on Finch until later events of the book, then it switches kind of to more of Violet. The focus was a little blurred on what the point of the movie was, because I hate that it's marketed as a romance. I hate that it's marketed like that. It's a coming of age mental health journey. It just bugs me. That being said, it didn't focus too heavily on the romance, which I appreciated, because even though it's a beautiful love story, it has these really broken characters that deal with really crappy situations and are kind of trying to cope with everything that they're going through. But I did feel like we didn't see a lot of Finch, or we didn't get enough character development for him. There are a few moments that I loved with his little sister, or, you know, things like that. There are a lot of like things that happen, things that shape the story. They're wanders, they're things like that. They go to them, they do whatever. They don't specify where we are. One example of this is the blue hole. But this is a giant lake. It has a lot of importance to the story for a multitude of reasons. You never got told what it was called. You know, when you're talking about scenes like that, you can't be like, oh, in that freaking giant lake. That's not as fun. How they incorporated the quotes. So I'm gonna say like 3/4 of the way through the movie, I was really missing out on my favorite quotes, but I loved how they were incorporated. Obviously, if you look at the cover of All the Right Places, you know that it has to do with post-its, or like post-its are involved. Like, I don't know how to explain that without sounding weird, but like, so all the quotes were on post-its, and I loved that, and I love that we got them read out to us. And even though they weren't told in the moment, they weren't told, you know, when a character needed them, or as an inner dialogue, or an inner monologue, excuse me, they were still there. And I loved that, because they were like doing a little nod to be like, hey, we didn't forget about these moments and the meaning behind these words. So I loved that. They also made it more modern, which is interesting. Proceed with caution in movies that are modern. How are they sustainable if we watch them in 5 years? The book, All the Bright Places, was I don't know why I keep saying All the Bright Places, because you obviously know, but All the Bright Places was written in 2015, and the movie came out in 2020. Obviously, there were some things that have changed. The primary means of communication in the book was Facebook. So for the movie, they changed it to Instagram. Now, I don't know how well that will age. I felt like it's almost better to make it as sort of a time capsule. You can call it a period piece in 30 years to kind of move that with the times. I'm not sure if that was the best decision. I guess generally more relatable if it is in present day, but I just don't know how sustainable that is. As far as the timing goes, I felt like the book did a really good job of balancing kind of like a before and after. I think about looking for Alaska when I say that, but what is this hair? There's something that happened kind of towards the end. I would say it's like about 2/3 of the way through, and then it's how characters are coping with it, dealing with it, or moving forward, and all those things. In the movie, it was about 20 minutes. It was very, very short. And I think the reason why the book works so well with this is because it doesn't say that time stops with an event, with a tragedy. Moving forward, going on, continuing with your life, treasuring moments and things like that, which I think the movie did a little bit of that, but I think that overall, if there was more time spent to kind of expand that and kind of bring the story out just from itself and make it more universal and relatable and just more able to be recognized by everyone rather than keeping it in its little bubble, would have benefited from a longer last bit. But I did like how they ended it. It's a monologue. I thought it was performed really well. I was very, very cautious going into this because obviously Elle Fanning has been attached to the project since the book came out. Jennifer Niven wrote the book and wrote the character of Violet with Elle Fanning in mind, so obviously it was a match made in heaven, and she performed flawlessly. I love Elle Fanning. I think she does a really good job with the complexities of characters, but I didn't know anything about our male lead, Justice Smith. I'd seen things floating around, Timothée Chalamet, or like all these people, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then, you know, he came out of nowhere, and I was so pleasantly surprised with Justice's performance. He was Finch. Like, it was so flawlessly done, and I just felt like his delivery on everything, he really understood the character and he could become him, which is obviously why he got the role. So I thought that he was perfect for that, and the chemistry between them was really good, and his snarkiness was fantastic. Finch is a very like Holden Caulfield kind of character, and I think that Justice Smith really embodied that. The side characters were also pretty good. Something that I talk a lot about is the art direction and the direction of the film. I really appreciated the composition of the shots. They were very interesting. I don't really know how to explain it without like showing you. You know, they really emphasized what was important. The colors, the coloring of this movie was gorgeous. I love what directors are doing with the coloring and all the colors that are in the shots. It's not like bland. It's so colorful and rich.
My final thing to note for this video is actually one that I forgot to mention, so excuse the audio quality, but there was no trigger warning for this movie. I believe not even in the book, so I wanted to make you aware of that before you plan on watching the movie or reading the book, for intense trigger warnings of tragedy, death of a loved one, suicide, suicidal thoughts, car accidents, attempted suicide, and self-harm.
My moral is obviously to read my favorite book of all time. If you want to do one thing for me ever, please read All the Bright Places. It means so much to me. This book, it came, my voice cracked. I read this back in 2017, and I read it at a time when I really needed it. Even rereading it, I really see myself in some of these characters, and so it's really such an important book and one that really strikes close to home.
They do this every year.
So please read it and please watch the movie. I have gripes, but they're very minimal, and I think that overall really captures the essence of the story, is able to take that story and make it something that's very approachable and that's compassionate and very real and very immersive. Anyway guys, that is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I plan on doing these videos. I really like them. Like and subscribe, do all of the things, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!